Jungkook, the youngest member of BTS, has finally revealed something he has long kept quiet about to Kim Seokjin, whom he considers to be his brother, best friend, and protector. Not only did the confession mark a turning point in their relationship as groupmates, but it also reignited discussions about the psychological pressures that K-pop idols experience, even from within their own groups. What has Jungkook been hiding all these years? Why did he choose to finally open up now and only to the genie? And how does this impact the internal dynamics of BTS, as well as the public perception of the sincerity of the interaction between the members of this phenomenal group? A meeting without a script. The inevitable point of emotional explosion. It doesn't happen in interviews. It doesn't happen in variety shows. This is not agency-curated content for publication. According to an unnamed internal source for reasons of professionalism and security, the conversation between Jungkook and Jin took place in private on the sidelines of a mental training session held by the management to support the members' emotional health. The session, Jin, who had completed his military service and returned with renewed vigor, was given the opportunity to become an informal mentor to other members. No one expected that Jungkook would suddenly stop the session, look at Jin, and say the phrase, "Hyung, I have to be honest now. I've kept it to myself for too long." The silence that accompanied the sentence lasted for a while. Even the staff who used to organize internal meetings seemed speechless, realizing that this was not part of the usual training agenda. This is a rare human moment in an industry that often demands the concealment of emotions for the sake of public image and expectations. Contents of confession. Feeling isolated amid popularity. In his statement to Jin, Jungkook confessed that over the years, he felt an emotional gap that was difficult to explain. He felt like he was in a very different position, even within his own group. "People see me as the golden mean, but they don't know how often I feel like a nobody among you," he said, according to one of the people who heard the confession firsthand. Furthermore, Jungkook revealed that the pressure to always be perfect, both vocally, visually, and in performance, made him hide emotional wounds that he should have been able to share a long time ago. However, the fear of disappointing the other members, or being perceived as not strong enough, prompted him to continue to silence himself. "I envy the way you guys can look calm. I don't even know who I am if I'm not performing," he added in a tone of voice that, according to eyewitnesses, was barely audible. Genie, unscripted reaction. No mask. How did the genie respond to such a deep and sensitive statement? In the testimony of insiders, Jin did not answer with long words. He looked at Jungkook for a long time, then simply said, "I'm sorry if we made you feel that way." A simple statement, but full of meaning. The genie does not deny, does not argue, does not try to console with empty words. He acknowledged, and he was present. The silence of the genie is precisely the highest form of empathy. He understood that what Jungkook needed was not advice, but space to be vulnerable. And for the first time, perhaps since their debut in 2013, Jungkook was truly given that space by someone he not only respects, but also trusts with all his heart. BTS dynamics that are not always as ideal as they seem during this time. The image of BTS in the public eye is very close to unity and togetherness. They often show almost perfect harmony in front of the camera, warm hugs, laughter, to tears together during the last concert. However, Jungkook's moment of recognition shows that even in a group that looks intact, there are internal dynamics that are not always easy. Many observers of the Korean music industry considered that Jungkook's confession could be an important moment to open a wider discussion about the mental health of idols. We can't continue to expect these young celebrities to display perfect images all the time, without ever providing a space for them to be honest, said Lee Min-young, a clinical psychologist who has worked with several major K-pop agencies, career influence, and burden of status as a global icon. One of the most evocative parts of Jungkook's confession is about how he sees himself as a product of industry, not a human being. He said, "I know I am loved by millions of people. Sometimes I feel like no one really knows me, even myself." This recognition surprised many because during this time Jungkook was known as the most expressive, most confident member, and most often performed solo in various projects. But it is precisely the status as a global icon that is a burden in itself. Every move is monitored. Every little mistake is exaggerated. Even a short pause in performance is perceived as a drop in standards, not as a sign that he needs a break. Why Jin? The big question that arises is, why did Jungkook choose Jin as the place where he shared for the first time? The answer, according to many close to them, is because Jin is the only member who never demands perfection from Jungkook. Jin doesn't care if Jungkook can dance perfectly or sing with a high note every time. He only cares if Jungkook is happy, said one of Big Hit Entertainment's longtime staff. In addition, Jin is known as a person who is very open to emotional conversations, although he rarely shows it in public. His maturity, military experience, and attitude of never imposing high standards on anyone made it a safe place for Jungkook to finally open up. Internal response: meaningful silence after the meeting. There was no press release.
No Instagram uploads.
There is no official statement from HYB. And that is probably the best decision that can be made. Moments like these are not to be commodified or monetized. It's a human story about honesty, pain, and the courage to open wounds amid the demands of a world that keeps forcing them to smile. However, some time later, fans began to notice subtle changes in the interaction between members. Jungkook looked calmer. He laughed more sincerely. He sat closer to Jin at some internal events. A silence that speaks more than 1,000 statements. Reflection. When sincerity becomes the most expensive currency in the entertainment world, what can we learn from this moment? That the courage to be honest is more important than consistency of performance. That man, even the most admired, is still man. And that in a world filled with imagery and expectations, an honest confession can be a small revolution that changes everything. For BTS fans, this moment might be a turning point. Has their love for idols made room for honesty? Or has it encouraged them to keep pretending? Has fandom created a safe haven, or rather a prison of expectations? These questions do not have a definite answer. But one thing is clear: Jungkook has taken a big step. He opened up a space for discussion that had been ignored for too long, and he did so with courage, honesty, and, most importantly, with confidence in the man he considered to be his true brother. Questions for readers after reading this article. We are faced with a deep reflection. Is Jungkook's confession to Jin completely real and pure, or is there a strategic element in the narrative compiled by the agency? Is this a signal that the Korean entertainment industry is starting to make room for its artists to appear more human? Or is it possible that this is just the surface of a much more complex issue, which has so far been covered with a neat image of unity? It's time we ask, do we really love idols because they are honest, or because they live up to our expectations?